I'm so glad that my karma brought me to San Francisco, city of book lovers and city of just wonderful, brilliant, companionable writers, poets, actors, musicians, 17 or 18 years ago. I'm proud to call this city my home. My writing, because of the way my life has gone off in tangents, has always been about what does home mean, where do we find it? Is it about nation state that we left behind, or the one we've adopted, or mother tongue, or religion, or culture? So here's a very short excerpt from my third last novel, Leave It to Me, which is full of sex and violence, but not for reading today. For all official purposes, like Social Security cards and unemployment benefits, I am or was Debbie DiMartino, a fun-loving 23-year-old American girl. I was adopted into a decent Indian American family in the Hudson Valley. That's the upside of adoption. And believe me, I've approached the situation, my situation, from every angle. The downside is knowing that the other two I owe my short life to were lousy people who'd considered me lousier still and who'd left me to be sniffed at by wild dogs like a carcass in the mangy shade. The upside and the downside of being recyclable trash don't quite balance. Debbie DiMartino is a lie. Whoever my parents intended for me to be never existed. That unclaimable part of myself is what intrigues me, the part that came to life in a desert village and had the name Baby Clearwater Iris Daughter until it was christened in a Catholic orphanage. That's the part I want to remember. But there's another part I try to keep secret, the part that sings to moons and dances with stars. With everything I've done, I've tried to find a balance. It's just that Debbie DiMartino has no weight, no substance. I had to toss her out. Cherchez le garçon. There was a boy, back when I was a stubby little 13-year-old. He was a 22-year-old graduate student at Syracuse. I had no way of knowing that there'd be a growth spurt. I was adopted. Wyatt was a lanky, crinkly blonde long hair. He had the first male ponytail I'd ever seen, getting a master's degree in social work, and I was his project. He had that low, slow, soft voice that just cries out, sex, 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 and deep brown eyes that bathed you with attention without ever blinking. The voice, the eyes, they burnt at a very low flame. He also had my police file, and he had the power, if he ever wanted to use it, to mess up my future, all of which made our relationship an exciting kind of power trip. I've been reading your file, Debbie, Wyatt'd say, once we were out of the group meeting. How did the DiMartinos come to adopt you? I'd never asked, and they'd never told. Lawyers, they always said, but it had to have started with the church. All those little pledge envelopes for missions in Asia that Mama still fills out. I know only that they'd found me in an orphanage run by gray nuns. You're not even interested? I always figured it was fate. Schenectady was fate? Wyatt took me out to the animal shelter. It was where he'd worked on weekends and high school summers. It was the place that had formed his philosophy of life. It was the only place where the ultimates sat side by side. Love and death, he said, kindness and killing. He thought he could be the catcher in the pound. Everything depended on his keeping his orphans clean enough, making them just a little more appealing, giving them cutesy names like Barbara, walking them and running them in the park. My family always called the animal shelter the pound, and I thought of it, if I thought of it at all, as an alternate lodging between loving homes. You don't usually visualize the dog pound as the palace of love. No one ever told me they gassed puppies and kitties. Cuteness is all that counts, Wyatt said. You have a bad day, you wake up with a dry nose, with dull eyes, you take a nap, you scratch your fleas. It's your life. What are you saying? I'm saying, you've got a chance, don't blow it. You might never have made it out of the orphanage. Someone must have seen something. And what could they have seen in a baby girl whose unnamed mother identified her as Clearwater Iris' daughter, and whose father was also unnamed, was called Asian National in the adoption papers? The nuns weren't interested in my origins. They didn't care about filling in the gaps of my life. They were into good works. It was the mid-'70s, and I was just a garbage sack thrown out on the hippie trail. Thank you.